We learned in the previous video that you can use the 5 forms of haber to put any verb in the past using that verb's participle. But what exactly is a participle? It's a version of the verb that doesn't change. For estar, it's simply estado, no matter which person you're talking about. I have been there is I he estado there. They have been there is they han estado there. She has been is she ha estado, and so on. So as you can see, in each case, the word before estado is changing, but the word estado itself doesn't change. The thing is, every verb in Spanish has lots of conjugated forms, meaning those forms that change based on which person is doing the thing. Those include the present tense, the past tense, and the subjunctive tense. But every verb also has some forms that never change based on the person doing it. One example is the infinitive. Let's look at ser, for example. Suppose that I'm talking about people wanting to be a student. The word to be is simply ser. So no matter who's doing the wanting, the form ser doesn't change. Look at these examples. I want ser a student. He wants ser a student. They want ser a student. She wants ser a student. In each case, the word ser doesn't change. Instead, the conjugated verb, the verb that's changing, is the verb wants. So that one does change based on what person is doing the wanting. All of this is to say that every verb has an unconjugated infinitive, which is the name of the verb, like ser or estar. And every verb will also have an unconjugated participle, which is what we use to put the verb in the past if we use it along with haber. So we've learned sido for ser and estado for estar. These words are pretty simple because there are so few of them. Every verb has only one infinitive, and every verb has only one participle. That's super handy because now that you know the conjugations of haber, you can learn new verbs left and right and start putting them in the past. Just learn the participle of the verb, which is just one word, and you can put it in the past for any person using haber. There's a third type of unconjugated form to learn for all verbs, and it's called the gerund. This is a form of the word that's used to put an action in the present. Consider, for example, the word eating in English. I am eating. She is eating. They are eating. So the word eating is not changing even though the person is changing. What is changing, though? That's the word before eating. In English, gerunds always end with ing. In Spanish, they always end with ndo. So for estar, the word is estando. For ser, it's siendo. Now we have a surprise for you. You're actually about to learn a new verb, the verb for eating. This is not a word that you'll use in every conversation, but we're going to learn it for the purpose of starting to use everything you've been learning this week. We've spent so long on these verbs that don't mean much of anything by themselves, verbs for being something or having done something. Well, now let's learn one verb that you can actually do. We've chosen the verb to eat because we've been using it so much for the eat test and so on that you may as well know how to say these things in Spanish. Except we're only going to learn the unconjugated forms of this verb. So the unconjugated forms of this verb are comer, which is the infinitive or the name of the verb to eat. Comido, the participle for putting in the past, it means eaten. And the gerund, comiendo, eating, for putting it in the present. So let's practice using the participle first. You could say, I have eaten by saying, I he comido. Then, you have eaten is you has comido. We have eaten is hemos comido. They have eaten is han comido. And then he, she, or it has eaten would be ha comido. Now let's practice putting it in the present. It would look like this. I am comiendo. You are comiendo. We are comiendo. They are comiendo. He, she, or it is comiendo. This is so fun because you only have to have a couple of words for eating to be able to use it in lots of different ways like this. We could do the same thing for pretty much any action verb, such as dancing, swimming, or running. Of course, something's missing here. In the previous video, we learned that haber is our verb that you conjugate and put right before a participle to put things in the past. Well, there's also a verb you should use before gerunds to put things in the present. And it's a verb you already know, the verb estar. So here's what this would look like. I am eating is estoy comiendo. You are eating is estás comiendo. We are eating is estamos comiendo. They are eating is están comiendo. And he, she, or it is eating would be está comiendo. As you can see, the word comiendo doesn't change, but we can use it for any person simply by conjugating the verb estar instead of having to learn how to conjugate the verb comer. This is a super handy hack for learning all kinds of verbs. You can now go out and start learning verbs, and instead of having to learn dozens of different forms for each verb, you can just learn the infinitive, the participle, and the gerund. Those unconjugated forms will get you using them right away, as long as you know how to use haber and estar, which you already know. Let's talk for a second about how you'd use siendo, which is the gerund for ser. So check out this sentence. You are being a bully. In this case, we're talking about what someone is, a bully. So we should theoretically be using ser. But there are two different forms of to be here. We have you are being. Are and being are both forms of to be. What are we supposed to do with this? So here's what the sentence would look like in Spanish. You estás siendo a bully. So it might throw you off that we're using both estar and ser. The thing is, the meaning from this sentence is actually only coming from ser, specifically the gerund siendo. And that's because we're talking about what someone is. The verb estar is simply being used to put siendo in the present tense, just like we would use haber to put sido in the past tense. So the meaning is all coming from the verb ser. The verb estar is just helping out. Now, this begs the question, what is the difference between these two sentences? You estás siendo a bully versus you eres a bully. I mean, they both mean you are a bully, but they're worded in a slightly different way. The first one is more like you're being a bully, and the second one is you are a bully. Don't worry too much about the differences between these. The main point is that there are two ways to put something in the present tense. Either we use the actual present tense conjugation of the target verb, in this case ser would be conjugated as eres, or we simply use an estar conjugation and then use the target verb's gerund. So let's practice this a bit with some conjugations of estar used before comiendo and siendo. We're not going to use the gerund estando simply because it's really not used much like this. Estás estando sounds weird and redundant to Spanish speakers. So let's just focus on the gerunds siendo and comiendo. See if you can predict how these sentences would be said. They are being babies. Están siendo babies. I am eating food. Estoy comiendo food. She is being a naughty puppy. She está siendo a naughty puppy. We are eating. Estamos comiendo. You're eating? ¿Estás comiendo? Now, before we go on, I'm going to do another mini quiz where I mix up some of these sentence examples with some examples of haber being used before estado, sido, and comido. Make sure you're getting most of these right before you go on to the next video where we'll cover one more detail about using these verbs. So here's your mini quiz. They are being babies. Están siendo babies. We are eating. Estamos comiendo. In this one, use a formal voice. You have been the boss. Usted ha sido the boss. We have been good friends. Hemos sido good friends. You've eaten that. You has comido eso. You have been the boss. Has sido the boss. I have been a student. He sido a student. He's being a bully. He está siendo a bully. She has been at the park. She ha estado en the park. In this one, use a formal voice. Have you eaten? ¿Usted ha comido? I have not eaten. I no he comido. We have eaten something good. We hemos comido something good. I'm eating food. Estoy comiendo food. Okay, to wrap up this video, I'm actually going to throw in some of our new conjunctions. So try this out. They have been students and are being good. Han sido students y están siendo good. They have eaten it, or we have eaten it. De lo han comido, o we lo hemos comido. We have been here when you have been here. Hemos estado aquí cuando you has estado aquí. I have been here if you have been here. I he estado aquí si you has estado aquí. Are you eating? But you haven't been here. ¿Estás comiendo? Pero no has estado aquí. She is being a good puppy because we are eating. She está siendo a good puppy porque we estamos comiendo.